Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our co-hosts, Sri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers online, in-store, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Sri and Peter.
Hi, folks, and welcome to this episode of the CPG Guys. I'm, of course, Sri, one of your CPG guys, shooting this all the way from the lovely New York City, Manhattan, which I called home for many years, and, of course, moved to California after that. Unable to join me today is my co-host and dear friend, also the SVP of Partner Strategy at Fetch Rewards, Mr. PVSB or Peter Bond. I hope whatever he's doing today, he's having a lot of fun, and we'll be back with him soon on another episode of the CPG Guys, so not to worry about that. But before we get started with our guest today, just a reminder, CPG Guys, of course, you can find all our content by simply going to a web browser, typing cpgguys.com, that easy, cpgguys.com. We have a brand new rich website, including organization of topics for every episode that we make by areas such as retail media, data, analytics, etc. So do chime in, take a look, cpgguys.com. We're friends, of course, and we have sister podcasts now with Over the Pond, all the way with Daniel and a friend in Western Europe, and it's called the FMCG Guys. They, of course, talk to industry luminaries, retail, and CPG, of course. In Western Europe, they call them FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods. So do check out fmcgguys.com and get to know everything taking place in the industry, just like the CPG Guys format, but in Western Europe. Programming now includes Retail Media Minute Tuesdays with Jeff Malmud from Mindshare, and the Omni Comment by Mr. Brian Gildenberg, a friend to the show for a long time. And the Fresh Four, of course, one of our co-hosts is Andrea, Leigh, and the other Melissa Burdick. And we will get to this episode, and you'll be surprised to know one of the co-hosts is actually joining us today. The CPG Guys are proud partners with Next Up, formerly known as the Network of Executive Women, with the mission to empower gender equality across corporate America. And that is the CPG Guys mission as well. To find out more, to join, visit nextupisnow.org/CPGguys. And now let me welcome to this podcast episode a friend to the show and one of the four Fresh Four Every Sunday co-hosts, none other than Miss Andrea Leigh, who has a lovely background dating in e-commerce from as long as I can think of. So, Miss Andrea, we're thrilled that not only are you a Fresh Four co-host, but hopefully your appearances on the show are starting to increase. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the audience. So the audience is probably wondering, what is it that Andrea does?
Well, thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun to be on the other side as an interviewee this week. So I'm the founder and CEO of Allume Group, which I'm going to tell you more about today. And I started this company about a year ago after having spent 4 years as one of the leaders of IdeoClick, which was an Amazon agency, and seeing some of the challenges that our over 350 brands that we worked with faced, as well as some of the challenges I faced in the hiring seat for digital talent. And prior to that, I ran a consultancy for a couple of years working with consumer brands in e-commerce. And before that, I spent 10 years at Amazon as a category leader.
If that's not a rich e-commerce and digital omnichannel background, I don't know what would be. Andrea, congratulations for that very, very rich career you've had in the omnichannel industry. I know many a time Peter and I call you, talk to about things taking place in the industry. And I know quarter over quarter, we would love to have you here on the CPG Guys. Come talk to us about Amazon when earnings release happens. So hopefully we'll look forward to that sometime in the near future as well. So folks, for those of you listening to the podcast, if you want to find out more about Andrea's profile, check out the digital liner notes of this podcast, the company website that she just referred to, the Allume Group, and so much more just by going to the digital liner notes of this podcast. So let me get us started. I'll be teeing up all the questions for Andrea today. And let me start first with getting into her background. So Andrea, before we do anything else, you gave the 30-second version of your career, right? But I want the full scoop here. Like coming out of college, where'd you go to school?
I went to the University of Minnesota. I originally hail from Wisconsin.
Minnesota, she's used to the minus 40 degrees weather. So coming from Wisconsin, Minnesota, take us through your career and the journey behind empowerment yourself, success, and then eventually it must feel amazing to be a founder now and actually leading something in what I would call a pivotal moment in the CPG industry to move to omnichannel. So take us through your career journey.
Yeah, well, I've always had a really strong interest in how customers shop. Starting at the University of Minnesota, I participated as an assistant on a research study where we hid in the grocery store behind the produce aisle, and we put up various signs encouraging people to touch or smell the produce. And we were kind of trying to get at like, what is the need for tactile experiences with food, which is interesting because I still spend a lot of time in the e-commerce space for grocery now. So that was kind of where my interest in the space really started. And then I came to Seattle and I got a chance to work for a law firm on some retail teams. So working on with some retail clients such as Nordstrom and the Home Depot here. And then from there went back to grad school at Penn State. And then from there was recruited into Amazon. So pretty much my whole career has been digital commerce, a little stint at a Dayton Hudson Marshall Fields as an intern, but pretty much my whole career has been in e-commerce. I also got a chance to spend some time with Disney Consumer Products, working on their princess line of clothing, which was a lot of fun. But you know, that kind of interest in how customers shop and sort of how shopping evolves has continued to this day.
So, Andrea, that's your career background, but I want to know a little bit more about Amazon. Tell us about your time at Amazon and what did you specifically do there?
Yeah, I spent 10 years there, all in the consumer retail division. And I worked across about 15 different product categories in my time there. But some of my big kind of career highlights were, in my early roles, working on Harry Potter book launches back before we had digital books. Those were a pretty Herculean effort. And we would, even everything from the order confirmation and ship confirmation emails had to be written in Harry Potter speak. So we would sit and write these emails to the muggles and things like that. But those are really big launches for Amazon back then. I also worked on the launch of their automated price matching tool. And so I wrote the original business requirements for price scraping and put that into motion there as well. Maybe much to the disdain of many of your listeners today who are probably plagued with a lot of price matching challenges. I worked on Amazon Fresh as we were pushing that business out nationally from being just a Seattle operation. And then my last 3 years, I spent working on the Amazon Canada business, launching 14 product categories in Canada. I was the liaison for the transportation network and fulfillment. We launched 3 fulfillment centers while I was up there. And I worked on Amazon Prime for Canada as well. So the whole time, all in retail, working for different retail leaders there.
It's one heck of a rich background at Amazon, and I'm sure many of the learnings you have there probably shape how you make decisions even today from an omni-channel perspective. And we got to the bottom of the infamous price matching tool. Just saying, you kind of mentioned Allume Group. You're the founder and CEO, so we're going to start diving into what that is. Right? Let's start up top. So let's get into what is the Allume Group before we jump into the why.
Yeah. So we're an educational provider on digital commerce topics. And so we work to kind of package all of that timely and critical intelligence and deliver it at scale. And so the way we do that is that our courses and our curriculum can all be accessed online via e-learning modules or via more like private synchronous workshops where we work directly with brands to bring learning on site. And we also offer a number of community connection points for brands and brand enablers, such as share groups, some topical office hours, webinars, etc. And so all of our courses are oriented around what we call the e-commerce success framework. So it's a framework for all of the pillars of success on e-commerce marketplaces, and the courses all ladder into those. And some of our clients include brands and brand enablers. So clients like L'Oreal, Mars, the Publicis Group, Johnson & Johnson, et cetera. And the courses are pretty heavy with frameworks and tools and best practices. And they also include interviews from our expert community of practitioners and thought leaders and industry luminaries.
Industry luminaries. I'm sitting across one today. How about that? So that said, Andrea, I have a couple questions on that. So one goes to allumegroup.com. That's ALLUMEGROUP.com for the benefit of our listeners. And they sign up. Can courses actually be customized? Is it a steadfast curriculum? And once you complete a certain number of courses, etc., is it organized into phases? How does the education actually get disseminated? And if a company, you gave me the names of a couple of clients back there, do you customize the training for them?
The e-learning is not customized, and that's by design because we want to have a consistent standard for that education. We do give out badges for course completion, and we also award e-commerce strategy certifications from our Allume Academy for those learners who achieve a specified 6-course curriculum. So kind of those building blocks that we just discussed. We have a lot more courses than that, but the prescribed 6-course curriculum will help someone achieve an e-commerce strategy certification. But the digital learning is all available online. Practitioners can just go on there and pay per course and take the courses, but we do also offer some corporate bulk rates and customized landing pages and things like that. When we go on site with brands, we do customize the curriculum a little bit more, and we call those workshops because they're really interactive, working with the brand, working with their leadership teams, working with groups of practitioners to make sure that not only are we discussing the curriculum, but we're also applying it in real time.
And then, Andrea, when one completes the 6-course curriculum to be certified as an e-commerce strategist now, or somebody who's capable of doing e-commerce strategy, is that primarily Amazon focused or is it omni-channel?
It's omni-channel. So our e-commerce success framework is across all platforms. So it's all e-commerce. We do have courses that are specific for each retailer. So we have a whole retailer series that covers Amazon, Walmart, Target, Kroger, Instacart, and more courses kind of launching regularly, but it is definitely a more general and broad e-commerce education.
And finally, on that one, Andrea, do you cover home delivery, click and collect, as well as the B2B relationships that most large CPG companies have?
Yeah, absolutely. And within each of the retailer specific courses, we kind of get into that in a little more detail because each retailer is different in how they're managing, getting the product to the customer.
So, Andrea, I've personally dabbled with many course curriculums over the years, being in e-commerce and digital for as long as I have, in addition to the brick and mortar side. So I am tempted to ask you, why did you start Allume Group?
Yeah, well, I think there are a couple of things. First, it isn't e-commerce anymore. It's just commerce. And we're seeing more and more brands and retailers kind of recognizing and embracing that digital strategy can't be lower priority anymore. And that a comprehensive commerce strategy really doesn't just include digital, but leads with digital. And so I often hear brands saying, I have doing about 20% of my sales online, or insert whatever number, and using that to inform investment decisions, et cetera. But really, we know that most of the shoppers are beginning their journey online and engaging with our brand digitally before they even buy anything online or go to a physical store. And so that digital first strategy is just really important. And during my time at IdealClick, I noticed that a lot of brands were working to build that strategy and those strategic capabilities in-house. So they're still working with agencies for execution, but becoming more important for the strategy to come from them directly. And it should, as e-commerce is becoming more of a part of everyone's business and job, that strategy should be coming from the brand. And so we were starting to get asked to do a lot of corporate training programs. So I got to see kind of the need from the brand and brand enabler side. I think there's also the piece which is around having sat in the hiring seat and trying to hire digital talent at IdeoClick, we found it's just a really challenging space right now. You're going to pay a lot of money for top talent. And we started to employ kind of a different strategy. And I've since then seen brands employ a similar strategy, which is instead of, hiring off the shelf e-commerce or digital talent, taking your existing people who know how to get things done within your organization much better than an outsider would and teaching them digital is often like a faster or fast-tracked way to achieve success. And, there's some broader trends as well. Like if you look at just overall employee churn, not even just in digital, there's this Deloitte study that talks about how 74% of employees feel they aren't achieving their full potential. 54% rank opportunities for job promotion and advancement as even more important incentives than compensation and bonuses. So this is all solvable, right? Education can be really empowering. It can give brands and enablers an opportunity to give their team the tools that they need and also recognize them, right, for accomplishing different courses and things like that. And so I encourage everyone to think about what if you didn't have to compete for digital talent? What if you could teach your existing people and empower them to be successful in digital?
I'm thinking, Andrea, where were you 10 years ago when I was starting? And man, could I have used that certification or what, right? And I also feel, even in today's environment, there's still the digital team and then there's everybody else. And hopefully this will help people get over that separation that says it's a digital team and a brick and mortar team, etc., and make people feel like they can do it all, which is what we need in the company to take the people that have been trained on brick and mortar, have decades of experience, to be able, at the end of the day, most of us are in B2B roles. And in this B2B environment, it's important that the buyer across the table, when they buy based on a planogram, even in a click and collect e-commerce scenario, you have to be able to speak the language of e-commerce and overall omni-channel. But the area that I reflect on, that I've personally experienced again over a decade, Andrea, is change. This industry, if I go back 10 years ago, Amazon's grocery business was less than 100 million, maybe in the $30-40 million range when I was working with them at Frito-Lay. And I'm talking 2013, 14. Different ballgame today where they have 40 plus stores in the marketplace called Amazon Fresh. Whole Foods is part of the family. And click and collect prior to COVID barely had a penetration. And now there's not a single retailer in America who doesn't talk to Peter and me and the jobs that we have in during the day about collect. And that e-commerce is now and it was absent in conversation until now, recently, but now it's everybody's priority, which means change is constant. The needs and wants of e-commerce and omni-channel have changed. How do you keep pace in the training curriculum with this change?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Shri. Profitero does this great report every year. It's called the Organizational Benchmarking Survey, where they survey a number of consumer brands. And in their latest report, it said that 17% of those surveyed considered themselves expert in organizing for e-commerce. So only 17% of brands are saying that they feel like they're experts, and 71% felt they were just keeping pace. And so I think that speaks to the dynamic environment that we're in, which is actually the thing that I love the most about e-commerce, is that it's different every day. Well, first, we do work hard to keep our finger on the pulse of e-commerce. And, obviously we have a lot of years of experience navigating the industry for clients across a lot of different categories, everything from negotiations to operational compliance to content, advertising, et cetera. But I will say, tactics to accomplish goals do change over time, but the concepts typically don't. Right. And so we're really focused in our education on concepts, on scalable concepts that help brands organize internally both their teams and their budgets and their strategies. And where we do focus the curriculum on tactics, we're leveraging our expert community. And we have been so fortunate to have such an incredible network within the e-commerce community. And this network of expert community these are all the people that contribute to and collaborate with us on our curriculum. And so each e-learning course is going to include interviews from a number of different thought leaders, and then we have even more than appear in the courses are contributing their thought leadership to the curriculum. So we spend a lot of time preparing the courses and pulling together a lot of different points of view.
Knowing you, Andrea, I'm sure you all really got tight with that content big time. So can you tell our audience what the differences are between the e-curriculum they can go on, take at their own pace, I assume, get certified as an e-commerce strategist, versus the in-room class training that you tend to customize for a given company? And then who in a company should be working with you? Is it the e-commerce VP or director? Is it HR? Where's the ideal connection?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will say, when you're launching your own business, you often have surprises, like things don't end up the way you had expected. And one of our big surprises was that we thought we would be teaching e-commerce practitioners. So we thought we'd be working primarily with digital teams that are already, in digital commerce as a part of their day to day. But we've been really surprised that most of our clients are actually leveraging the curriculum across their whole organization. And even more importantly, working directly with the leadership teams within the organization and also with the teams that don't touch e-commerce. Like those have been special areas of focus. And I think that's, just kind of goes back to that importance of a digital first mindset in all types of organizations, kind of learning that for themselves. But in a live workshop format, we might spend half of the time reviewing some of the material from the course, and it will be the, similar material to what's in the e-learning offering. But then we're going to spend a lot of time workshopping the topic. So if you look at our e-commerce success framework, we'll spend time working with that team on a self-rating exercise, on a discussion of those self-ratings, on a gap analysis, on a go-forward plan, so that we can really make sure that learning is applied, right? And there's really something for everyone within our curriculum. We don't just offer foundational courses. We have a lot of advanced strategy too. So those folks who maybe don't think they need some of the foundational education, we have a lot of advanced strategy as well.
And Andrea, that's one of the big questions I have, which is what level in the organization is the e-curriculum tailored for versus the in-person? And then is it more beginners and rudimentary, or does this go across the spectrum of going deeper, such as if I want to learn a whole lot more about search, I can do that in the e-curriculum?
Yeah. So the courses that ladder up to the e-commerce strategy certification are pretty broad in nature. They cover, most of the marketplaces, and most of the best practices. And those are really targeted toward, I think I would say everyone. We've had senior leadership within organizations go through some of that curriculum and find it valuable. When you start looking at the retailer specific series, or we also have an advertising specific series, which goes through each retail media platform, I think then we're really looking at the audience being maybe a little bit more hands-on. And so, looking for the specific ad products and tactics to activate on this specific retailer's platform. But all of the courses that ladder into the e-com strategy certification are pretty general interest. And I would say we're hitting it like a 201 level. Like there's an assumption that you understand what a marketplace is and you understand a little bit about how they operate. But we're definitely still reviewing some important concepts around in-stock strategy and content strategy and advertising strategy.
And so when you say marketplace, are you referring to a Walmart.com, or are you referring to a third-party marketplace like eBay and Amazon's?
We're looking at both. So by nature of what we call a marketplace is when buyers and sellers are matched together in an online platform. So any e-commerce site where there are multiple sellers, and then hybrid marketplaces like Amazon and Walmart and Target, where they're also buying their own inventory.
And so that could be when you say buyers and sellers, it could be the 1P business, 2P business, 3P business, hybrid, really doesn't matter. It's wherever there's a consumer shopping and there's the opportunity to go to lower funnel and buy something.
Absolutely.
What about functions, Andrea? So, I've spent most of my career in the commercial selling function of across various large brands in the world. But I've always found that to be successful, you have to have relationships and partner together with marketing, supply chain, IT for platform needs, finance to make sure that everything we do is kept profitable and wholesome, etc. So, is the course for any function, or is it primarily for selling?
The course is for every function. And well, I would say until you start going into the more retailer specific and advertising specific, those are obviously a little more sales and marketing and advertising focused. But the rest of the curriculum would be more general interest. And in fact, some of the feedback we've gotten from our clients where we're doing the private workshops is that that's part of the key benefit of the course is that they've got a cross-functional team of learners in one room and actually, working together to solve a problem. And I think, without naming names, we had a client recently, and it was a workshop on mutual profitability. And one of the discussion points was, what are some of the profit killers in your business as it relates to e-commerce, and who in this room needs to be involved in solving that problem? And so, kind of encouraging the teams to work together and kind of understand, that it really takes a cross-functional effort to make marketplaces work.
So you're saying the old school rhetoric that e-commerce is not profitable, that no longer is applicable, and you can actually help people solve it?
I do think e-commerce certainly can be profitable.
There we go.
Yeah, by focusing on win-wins.
And if I heard you correctly, somewhere in the training program, you actually address profitability.
Absolutely. We have a course on mutual profitability, which is kind of breaking down the cost to deliver model and helping brands. Yeah. And then we also have a course that's specific to Amazon on annual vendor negotiations.
Oh, so the training also covers how to do annual vendor negotiations and what the trap points are, the watch outs and things for that nature. But I like the way you framed it. If it, first of all, confirm that it includes that.
Yeah, there are actually two separate courses. We have one that's just on mutual profitability levers, and then another course that's just specific about Amazon annual vendor negotiations, because we all know that's a really unique process.
Wait a minute, Andrea. So you're telling me in the online curriculum, in 6 courses, people are going to get all this value?
Yes, it is a comprehensive education, and it is really similar to kind of what we built at the agency to onboard our new employees. Like, that was sort of the original ideation behind it. Obviously, it's a lot more comprehensive. It brings in more points of view, and it's produced. But the original idea was, what are the 6 kind of classes we need to get every new employee to accomplish, and this was it.
While we won't ask you to give away details of the actual programs and get into the absolute depth of each one of them, would you like to tease out when you say 6, or allude to what those might be when someone comes to the website and checks it out?
Yeah, absolutely. So in order for brands and products to be successful online, they have to have a sustainable strategy. So that strategy includes distribution strategy, pricing and promotion strategy, assortment strategy, et cetera. So that would be one set of courses. Products have to be financially viable for both parties. So we have curriculum around that. They have to be in stock. Can't sell something that's not on the digital shelf. So there's a whole strategy around how to best stay in stock. They have to be properly and accurately set up in the retailer's digital catalog. And so that's focusing on content best practices. And then the highest level we achieve is receiving traffic and activity. And that's focusing on advertising, SEO, content, and retail media.
Sounds like you're covering an entire spectrum across the board, as you mentioned, but you're also getting into what I think the fiduciary responsibility of e-commerce is, which I'm not so sure many have dealt with that. So that's a big deal and perhaps a first time in the industry. So that triggers me to ask you another question, which is, some of us have spent a decade in this industry, and I know many in the industry. As I was at grocery shop about a week and a half ago at the time of this recording, and met with some of my oldest friends in the industry in this space, decade long. Those that have built their careers based on digital and e-commerce, or reinvented their careers based on digital and e-commerce, etc., and obviously feel they're very strong in the space. I hesitate to say that they know it all, but I hear that from many of them, like the grandmothers and granddaddies of ecom. What is the course offer for them? And I always feel learning is a continuous journey. None of us knows it all. Every day I learn something new in the retail media world and the consolidation. So, what is the course offer for those who feel they're very seasoned in this space?
Yeah. I feel like being a practitioner and having the ability to evangelize digital commerce within your organization maybe require different skill sets. And so, I think we work with a lot of practitioners who are really strong. And we also want to help those practitioners inspire the rest of their organization to be digital first, to be focusing on that digital shopper journey. And so we're providing in our courses frameworks and tools to help these individuals both communicate internally and advocate for digital resources. And in addition, we often hear from e-com managers, directors, VPs, that there's this extra tax that they carry of having to, in addition to doing their day jobs, educate the rest of the organization on the importance of digital. And I was just talking with a client last week we were talking about this very topic, and she sent me a screenshot of her calendar for the week. And it was all these all of these meetings with cross-functional team members to, try to gain some support for some of the initiatives that she was working on. And that's an extra tax that practitioners in e-commerce have to pay. And frankly, it can hold them back in their career path because they're spending less time executing and more time teaching others. And so, we're really focused on how do we help these folks fast track their teams instead of having to do all the training on their own. How can we provide curriculum that can help the rest of the team? Or if even it's just the leadership team that goes through it, there are at least some pretty quick frameworks and vocabulary that may help you do that job faster.
Thanks for mentioning that, Andrea, because I do believe learning is a continuous journey, and you're so right that even the seasoned veterans deal with this time pressure of I still have to align 7 cross-functional partners and peers, and the amount of time being spent even today is significant in just getting the answer to a yes on something that's so obvious to many in the industry. And perhaps this course curriculum can help people get on the same page, as you've referred to a couple of times. So I'd love for you to again remind our audience, if they want to get certified, if they want to understand e-commerce more, where should they go?
Allumegroup.com, www.allumegroup.com, and you can access all of our courses there, or you can feel free to get in touch via the website for access to private workshops and bulk curriculum.
And those of you actually watching this video on TikTok, Instagram, you can see it on Andrea's t-shirt right there, ALLUME group.com. So Andrea, thank you for a fascinating discussion on just, I would say, the Allume Group, the purpose and mission of Allume Group, what you have in the training curriculum, the reason why it's necessary even today, and how it's cross-functional in nature. But I would say we raised the level to, this wasn't just a conversation about Allume Group. This is an important conversation on education in the industry and why it needs to be cross-functional and why it's for everybody. So thank you for actually bringing that to our industry. I think it's a big deal. Let me remind our audience that you can find all of our content easily by going to a web browser and typing www.cpgguys.com. We are, of course, now on all social media platforms. Yeah, that even includes Twitter, believe it or not. We are on TikTok. We'd love for you to go check us out and give us a like, a click, and share the love that you have done on LinkedIn. We're also on Instagram, and we have stories, we have reels, and we have posts. And they're all different content, so do check those out. Become followers there as well. Thank you for the over 16,200 followers we have on LinkedIn. Without you, we are nobody. You shape the show. You tell us who to bring on the show, and we're deeply, deeply thankful for that. November is Women's Month on the CPG Guys. Continue to check out our programming in November, which focuses exclusively and quite heavily on female executives in the CPG industry. Andrea, I want to thank you for giving us a valuable part of your time today, recording this episode with us and being part of us. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, of course, every Sunday for being a co-host of the Fresh Four.
Absolutely. Part of my routine.
I hope you have as much fun doing the Fresh Four as Peter and I do, and Melissa does as well. So look forward to seeing you soon at another industry event. And I want to thank all our followers. And folks, we'll see you on another episode of the CPG Guys.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.